Good morning, friends. I again welcome you all to my audio tutorial. In today's audio tutorial, I will cover part 3 of our Indian Constitution, that is fundamental rights. Part 3 of our Constitution is covered from Article 12 to Article 35. This part 3 of our Indian Constitution is also known as the Magna Carta of India. Fundamental rights of our Indian Constitution are being inspired from the Constitution of USA, that is the Bill of Rights. It is in fact a very long, comprehensive list of enforceable and justiciable fundamental rights. The fundamental rights that are found in our Indian Constitution are more detailed and more comprehensive than any other constitution of the world. The fundamental rights of our country, they make no discrimination on any individual, and they basically promote equality and interest of each and every section of our Indian society. The biggest thing about fundamental rights are that they are guaranteed and protected by the Constitution of India, which is the fundamental law of the land. Now, starting fundamental rights, I will first break the status of fundamental rights prior to 1978 and after that. It is a very famous thing I would like to tell you that by the 44th Amendment Act 1978, the fundamental right to property was deleted from the list of fundamental rights. So before 1978, there were 7 fundamental rights. I will brief you those 7 fundamental rights, and after that I will tell you about them in detail. First I am speaking about them, and I will speak a bit slowly so that you are able to jot down in your copy. The very first, this I am telling those fundamental rights which existed before 1978. After that I will tell you those fundamental rights which were after 1978, that is after the 44th Amendment Act. So before 1978, there were 7 fundamental rights. The first one was right to equality, which was covered from Article 14 to Article 18. The second was right to freedom, which was covered from Article 19 to Article 22. The third was right against exploitation, which was covered from Article 23 to Article 24. The fourth was right to freedom of religion, which was covered from Article 25 to Article 28. The fifth was cultural and educational rights, which was covered from Article 29 to Article 30. The sixth one is right to property, covered under Article 31. The seventh one is right to constitutional remedies, covered under Article 32. These fundamental rights are available to each and every citizen of India and also to the foreign citizens in order to protect them from the arbitrary and totalitarian action of the legislature of any state or the union government. Now, I will tell you something about the features of fundamental rights of our Indian Constitution. Fundamental rights, the very first important feature of fundamental right is that out of all the fundamental rights that are covered under Article 12 to Article 35, some are available only to the citizens of India, while others are available to both the citizens and foreigners, and also to legal entities like companies, corporations, groups, etc. So this is the first feature of fundamental rights, that some are available to citizens, some are available to foreigners, and some are available to corporations. Almost all the fundamental rights are available to the citizens of India, while selected are available to the foreigners and legal persons like corporations or companies. The second most important feature of fundamental right is that fundamental rights are not absolute but qualified. This means that fundamental rights are not absolute in every condition. They can be abrogated, they can be finished, they can be restricted, they can be demarcated by the state. That means that according to social circumstances, reasonable restrictions can be placed on fundamental rights. Now, whether a restriction that is being placed on a fundamental rights is reasonable or not, it can be decided only by the courts. So, the point is that this feature of fundamental rights allows to maintain a sort of equilibrium between giving liberty to an individual and also exercising social control. Now, social control is exercised in order to maintain harmony inside the society, which means that if an individual is by his acts is trying to produce some sort of hue and cry or some sort of disturbance in the society, then his fundamental rights can be snatched away from the government or by the authorities in order to maintain social equilibrium and social control. So, fundamental rights tries to maintain an equilibrium between social liberty and individual liberty. Most of the fundamental rights which are written in our Indian Constitution, they protect us against the totalitarian action of the government, of the state or of the union. But if a state imposes, suppose if a state makes any law which is not in accordance with the fundamental rights that are being written in our Indian Constitution, then constitutional remedies are available for that individual. Suppose if a individual thinks that his right has been abrogated or being snatched away by any law that is made by the government, the union government or the state government, then in order to get those rights, provision of constitutional remedies is available. But if his fundamental right is being snatched away by any private individual and not by the state, then no constitutional remedies are available, only ordinary legal remedies are available. Yes, I was saying that if an individual thinks that his fundamental right is being snatched away by a private individual, then in order to protect his fundamental right in this situation against that private individual who has snatched his right, there is no constitutional remedy available, but ordinary legal remedies are available. Ordinary legal remedies means that you can file a case in the court and other normal things which is not related to change in the constitution. That means that there is a big difference between constitutional remedy and ordinary legal remedy. Constitutional remedy are being enforced by the courts, mainly the Supreme Court, by bringing a change in the constitution, whereas ordinary legal remedies are normal remedies that are being given to you mostly by the courts, and they do not involve any sort of change in the constitution. The next feature of fundamental right is that some of the fundamental rights are be said to be negative in nature and some are said to be positive in nature. Those fundamental rights which put a full stop on the arbitrary action of the state, they are said to be negative in character, and those fundamental rights which confer certain sort of positive privileges on any person are said to be positive in nature. As already told earlier in this lecture, fundamental rights are justiciable and they are enforceable in the courts. Unlike the directive principles of state policy, which are not enforceable in the courts. If you think that your fundamental right has been violated, then you can directly go to the Supreme Court in order to defend your fundamental right. This power has been conferred upon Supreme Court through Article 32 and on High Courts through Article 226, that they can declare a law unconstitutional and invalid on the ground of contravention of any of the fundamental right. The next important feature of fundamental right is that these fundamental rights are not permanent. They are not absolute. That is, that Parliament can change these fundamental rights, or they can totally abolish these fundamental rights only on the condition that the law that they are changing or the right that they are changing does not belong to the basic structure of the Constitution. Now, what is this basic structure of the Constitution? This basic structure of the Constitution I will upload in my next audio tutorial. There I will tell you in detail what basic structure of the Constitution entail. Right now, you just need to know that fundamental rights, which are the part of the basic structure of the Constitution, cannot be changed by the Parliament. Now, after defining these small and few features of our fundamental rights of Indian Constitution, now I will line by line, point by point cover the various articles, Article 12 to 35 of our Indian Constitution. It is not possible to cover all the articles, that is all articles from 12 to 35 in this one audio lecture. It may take more than one audio lecture in order to tell you in detail about fundamental rights. So, if it is possible for me to cover all these articles from 12 to 35 in this one audio tutorial, I will cover it. And if it is not possible, I will cover it in my subsequent audio lectures. Now, coming to Article 12 of our Indian Constitution. First, I will dictate what Article 12 of the Indian Constitution is, and after that, I will explain it to you. Article 12 of the Indian Constitution reads that in this part, unless the context otherwise requires, the state includes the government and Parliament of India and the government and legislature of each of the states and all local or other authorities within the territory of India or under the control of the government of India. Now basically, this Article 12 tells us the meaning of the term state. Now, this term state has been used in part 3, that is fundamental rights of our Indian Constitution, and whatever is covered under this term state is being told in Article 12 of the Indian Constitution. Now here I will tell you that what in detail this term state means in the context of Article 12. First, it includes the government and Parliament of India, that is all the legislative and executive organs of the union government. Firstly. Secondly, it includes the governments and legislature of all the states of India and all the legislative and executive organs of the state government. Third, it covers all the authorities, whether they are statutory, non-statutory, extra-constitutional, for example, NTPC, BHEL, Steel Authority of India Limited, Life Insurance Corporation, postal authorities, etc. That means all those authorities, all those companies, all those corporations that are working under the control of Indian government or state government. And the fourth, that is covered under the definition of state, are all the local authorities, that is the Panchayati Raj institutions, that is the municipalities working at the local levels, that is the district authorities, all the trusts that are working under the government of India, all the NGOs that are working under the government of India. and each and every local authority that is working under the control of either the government of India or the government of the state. Now, in this thing, one thing to note is that the Supreme Court has said that under the definition of the term of state, according to Article 12, even a private person who is working as an instrument or under the instructions or authority of the state government or the union government will also be termed as a state. That means that any person who has the authority of the state government or the union government and performs any functions under that authority, and that function is not in accordance with the fundamental rights, then that person will be termed as the state, and he can be sued for violating the fundamental rights of any individual. So this is Article 12. Now coming to Article 13. Article 13 of the Indian Constitution, first of all, I will like to read it. After that, I will explain you its meaning. In very basic sense, Article 13 of the Indian Constitution says that all those laws that are not in accordance or that are inconsistent or that are in derogation of any of the fundamental rights shall be declared null and void. Basically, okay, first of all, I will read what is written in the Constitution, the legal language, and after that I will explain that legal language to you. So, the legal language says that under Article 13, laws inconsistent with or in derogation of the fundamental rights. First point, all laws in force in the territory of India immediately before the commencement of this Constitution, insofar as they are inconsistent with the provisions of this part, shall, to the extent of such inconsistency, be void. First part, this was. Second part, the state shall not make any law which takes away or abridges the rights conferred by this part, and any law made in contravention of this clause shall, to the extent of the contravention, be become void. Now third says, in this article, unless the context otherwise requires, first subpoint, law includes any ordinance, order, bylaw, rule, regulation, notification, custom or usage having in the territory of India the force of law. Second subpoint, laws in force includes laws passed or made by a legislature or other competent authority in the territory of India before the commencement of this Constitution and not previously repealed, notwithstanding that any such law or any part thereof may not be then in operation either at all or in particular areas. Point 4. Nothing in this article shall apply to any amendment of this Constitution made under Article 368. Now basically this is the legal language of Article 13 which is written. Now I will explain to you what it means. Basically, this Article 13 confers the power on the Supreme Court under Article 32 and the High Court under Article 226 that they can declare any law unconstitutional and void on the ground of contravention of any of the fundamental rights. The most important thing in Article 13 that Article 13 has told us about the influence of the term law. What does this term law means? This term law includes in its ambit the following points. All the laws that are made by the parliament or the state legislatures. The first thing. The second thing, all the laws, which you can say basically all the temporary laws that are being issued by the president or the governors of the state. It includes in its ambit executive legislations like order, bylaw, rule, regulation or notification. It also includes in its ambit non-legislative sources of law, that is custom or usage having the force of a law. So basically, this Article 13 in the meaning of term law has included in itself everything. That is the law or the order that is being issued by any government authority that is working in its own capacity. Any authority that is working under the union government or any authority that is working under the state government, any authority as small as municipality, panchayati raj, district institution, even a corporation, any rule they make, even inside those corporations, if that rule takes away any of the fundamental rights of any of the citizen of India, then that law will automatically become null and void, as it is in against the spirit of the Constitution of India. Now, while telling you the legal language of Article 13, I told in the fourth point that nothing in this article shall apply to any amendment of this Constitution made under Article 368. This means that Article 13 says that a constitutional amendment that is being made by the Parliament will not come under the definition of a law, and hence that constitutional amendment cannot be challenged. This is being told expressively by Article 13, and this point was added in Article 13 through 24th Amendment Act 1971. So, by 24th Amendment Act 1971, it was being added inside Article 13 that any constitutional amendment act will not be covered under the definition of a law in Article 13. But in the Keshwanand Bharti case of 1973, the Supreme Court ruled that any constitutional amendment can be challenged on the ground that it violates a fundamental rights that is an integral part of the basic structure of the Constitution. And hence, if that fundamental rights forms the basic structure of the Constitution and if it has been challenged, then automatically that law will become null and void, or that constitutional amendment will become null and void. This means that in 1971, the Parliament added one clause in Article 13 which said that if a constitutional amendment has been made by the Parliament, that constitutional amendment will not be covered under the definition of the law. That is, indirectly Parliament abrogated the doctrine of judicial review of the fundamental rights. But it was being negated by the Supreme Court in the Keshwanand Bharti case 1973, which said that if any fundamental right is a part of the basic structure of the Constitution, and if that fundamental right is being changed through any law, through any constitutional amendment made by the Parliament, that constitutional amendment can be challenged in the court, and hence it can be declared as void. So basically, this was in detail Article 13 of the Indian Constitution. Right now I am finishing my audio lecture here. In this audio lecture, I will told you only about the features, only about the main features of fundamental rights, what are the use of these fundamental rights, and only Article 12 and Article 13. Rest Article 14 to 35, I will discuss in my subsequent lectures on fundamental rights. So thank you for listening this lecture, and keep logging on to my website, my blog gs-india.blogspot.in in order to get more articles of civil services, of public administration, of current affairs, and obviously audio tutorials. And in future I am also going to upload the video tutorials of quantitative aptitude and reasoning. So thank you for your patience. Have a good day. Good morning, friends. I again welcome you all to my audio tutorial. In today's audio tutorial, I will cover part 3 of our Indian Constitution, that is fundamental rights. Part 3 of our Constitution is covered from Article 12